Welcome to the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, featuring stellar conversations with emerging and established wickedly smart women. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate the wickedly smart women who are committed, care deeply, and have the courage to take action and create change all around the world. Now here's your host, Emerald Greenforest.
Welcome to another episode of the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, where we celebrate wickedly smart women and provide our listeners with a wealth of wisdom, along with immediately actionable steps to be smarter, spunkier, and more successful in their impact and their leadership. This is your host, Emerald Greenforest, and today we welcome our very special guest, Rachel Augusta. And I'm going to call her Rachel, quote, animal, close quote, Augusta, because Rachel was featured by the New York Times, CNN, BBC, and was on the cover of People magazine because she works with animals all over the world who are sick, injured, have a terminal illness, or suffer from age-related issues or trauma due to previous abuse. She is a certified Advanced Proficiency Healing Touch for Animals practitioner, which is the highest certification in this field. She has her own practice, works in hospitals, vet clinics, and rehab facilities and shelters. And I had the pleasure of meeting Rachel in person. Where did we meet, Rachel? And thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Originally, it was in Florida at the New Media Summit, and then it was again in San Diego. So, you know, in warm ocean-like climates where neither of us actually live typically.
Beautiful. Well, you know, it is fortuitous, the timing for you to be on the show. Before we got started and began our conversation here, I was sharing with you that my own cat, my medicine cat, Jackie the cat, also known as Kitty Love, has been basically deteriorating for at least the last 6 and possibly even 9 months, and really was at the point of no return last Monday. And my son, I chose not to euthanize because I wanted my son to have an opportunity to say goodbye and connect with the cat, because he has lost both of his grandmothers this year, and this is his cat. And he came to the house and laid his head on the kitty's belly and suddenly looked up and said to me, "Have you tried parasites? Have you tried to get him tested for parasites?" And my frustration, which I was expressing to you before we got started with the show, was I went in June to the vet, and what I got at the vet was, well, it could be this, 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 it could be this. Let's do blood tests. $250 later, the blood test showed nothing. So then the next level was, well, it could be this, 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 or it could be this. And now we're talking into the thousands of dollars of diagnostics. And I said no in June. And now 6 months later, my son says the word parasite. And within 24 hours, he sends me some research he has done about a parasitical infection in cats that was literally as if I had written the list of what was going on with this cat. Losing weight, circling, eye is dilated, pooping and peeing out of the box. And just now the cat is so depleted. And so the timing for this could not be better, Rachel. So I want to start by just saying thank you for doing what it is that you do. And thank you for answering your call. And I want to hear from you about that story. Like, how did you get called to step into the role that you play and to become a leader in this area?
Thank you. And honestly, you know, people approach me a lot and ask me if they, you know, as a child, I knew I wanted to work with animals. And that's not at all the case. Actually, I was in the process of starting a clothing manufacturing company. And when my beloved soul companion, my cat, Holly, got really super sick. And I had the vet come out. The vet gave her basically a couple of weeks to live. And sadly, this is pretty common with animals. Animals have evolved to mask their illness. So we don't actually know they're sick until they're so sick they can't hide it anymore. And that's what she had done. And so she was given basically a couple of weeks to live. But the veterinarian's delivery of this news was so, well, without bedside manners. And what it did was it threw me into this angry, like, how dare you say there are no options, nothing, you're not going to give me anything. This is my this is my best friend. I'm not ready to say goodbye. It threw me into mama bear fight. And what's interesting, and I know you won't find this shocking or odd or weird at all, Emerald, is that the very next day, someone I know who had no idea that Holly was sick sent me an email saying, have you heard of this school that teaches people how to work with animals? They're in Colorado, but this month they're going to be at the University of Minnesota. What? Like, that was exactly what I needed. I didn't have time to go to school to be a veterinarian myself. I would have if I could have, but time was not on my side. So I enrolled that day. And, that month I started studying the immune system and how can we get our body and our brain to start working with itself instead of against itself. And I started applying everything I could to Holly. And what looked like miracles was really just what happens when you get the body and the brain in alignment. And Holly ended up living an additional 3 years. But because Holly, because I'm so involved with animals and animal rights, I know a lot of people with animals. So everybody, saw me and they were like, saw Holly and they're like, well, here's my cat, here's my dog, here's my bunny, here's my horse. Rachel, can you do this? And it was, line out my door with people's animals needing help. And of course, because I love animals on such a deep level, I was like, yes, 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 I'll help all of you. And then one day I was like, I'm going to be living in my car. I haven't worked on this manufacturing company in months. In fact, I don't want to. Everything about it was hard. Nothing was working. And this other thing was so easy. I didn't have to go out looking. People were finding me because basically I was filling a role that somebody needed to step into.
Yeah. And you got into alignment. Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
But what I'm hearing there, Rachel, and this is for all of you wickedly smart women who overgive, and undercare for yourself, you actually almost brought yourself to the point of insolvency by overgiving and also staying attached to potentially generating revenue in a business that wasn't really a good fit for you. So tell us what happened when you snapped into alignment, when you recognized, oh, I've already got a made for me market. When you snapped into alignment, tell us what happened for you then in terms of your business. And also let's go down the path a little bit about, some of the things that you see happening with animals that you now help people with that some of our listeners might be experiencing, like I'm experiencing with my cat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, so people are they laugh when I tell them how much I made in 2014 because it seems so shocking. I made $24 total working full time, probably more than full time. I actually was acting a lot like an emergency room doctor, and that wasn't even including my mileage. So that's where I people are like, how did you survive? On my savings. Yeah. How did you get into alignment? It took really powerful women to take me by the shoulders and say, Rachel, Anna, Augusta, what are you doing? You think you're Mother Teresa? Mother Teresa was funded by major corporations. You're giving your last crumb away. You can't be the light of the world if you can't pay your light bills. And all these things were being said to me. And it was so hard for me to get out of that place because in my mind, I was like, everybody deserves access to free healthcare. Even your animals. And because people spend so much at the vet, by the time they get to me, they're like, I'm $15,000 in debt and I still don't have any answers. And so I felt like, well, I can do this. The problem is that if I would have kept doing that, I would be working in a cubicle and I wouldn't actually be doing my work in this world at this point. So once I got into alignment, I was able then to help so many more animals, so many more. I mean, I was working full time, but I wasn't helping in the capacity that I am now. And what it's done is it's given me space and time and ability to go even deeper. I'm going into rescues and, I'm going into big sanctuaries and I'm helping their volunteers understand just really simple, basic things that, seem obvious, but aren't obvious, that even veterinarians aren't talking about. And one of the things is, just simply understanding the power of relaxation, the power of happiness. So a lot of people think that what I do is woo-woo. And honestly, there's nothing woo-woo about it. When you can create relaxation in your body, when you can create happiness, your brain releases endorphins. And when your brain releases those endorphins, your muscles relax. And when your muscles are relaxed, your blood becomes oxygenated. And when you have oxygenated blood, your body can absorb all the nutrients it needs to, from the food you're eating, to the tinctures you're taking, to, the drugs, the Western medicine that's being given to you. And then your stomach starts creating digestive enzymes, the hormones start regulating, the body detoxes, and new cell growth happens. You need that new cell growth. And you can't have it if you're in a state of stress. And so when people hear that, they're like, oh my God, yeah, it's all about pain relief. I mean, this is why if you go to the doctor with a broken arm, they're going to ask you what your pain level is. If you say 2, they're going to hand you an Advil. If you say 10, they're going to prescribe you a Percocet. They're not handing out painkillers because they feel bad for you. They're prescribing it because you can't heal if you're in pain. So a lot of times people will say to me, well, my dog's not in pain. My cat's not in pain. Based on what? Your animal has evolved to mask pain.
Yeah.
So they're walking around. I mean, humans and animals, we're just very different, We humans, we love to talk about our pain, right? It's a main focus. I remember when I was traveling through England, I met this woman who was like, there's nothing more boring than hearing someone talk about their allergies. And I started laughing because I was one of those people. And we love to talk about it. Animals don't. So when an animal comes to me, I just say, let's assume they're at a level 10. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, they're not in pain. Well, based on your human eyes, they're not. But if they have parasites and they're losing more than half their body weight, imagine if that was you, would you be in pain? Yes, I'd be very miserable. They are too.
Yeah.
They're just not talking about it.
Well, and it's interesting because the vet that I saw last Monday said the exact same thing. She said they're predators and predators never show their pain, because if they show their pain, then they become the ones that are subject to predation. We got to take a quick break. It's already halfway through. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about how people can access you and your work, and how you've leveraged your work so that you can give from a full cup, from an overflowing cup, and serve more with greater ease. So thank you for listening up until this point, listeners, and please stay tuned for the second half of the show. Right now, though, I want to ask you, Wickedly Smart Women, for some help. If you are enjoying this show and want us to stay on the air, please consider making a donation at www.wickedlysmartwomen.com. I do not want to get to the point of being in pain, so I'm going to ask for help right from the get-go. We also want to ask you to share with your lovely lady friends who you think might benefit from our content. Help a gal out and let your sisters, mothers, daughters, friends, and colleagues know about the show so we can serve them too. I want to say a big thank you to all of our listeners who are downloading, rating, and reviewing. We're welcoming thousands of downloads from all over the world. I want to shout out this week to our listeners in Minneapolis, because that's where Rachel is. And Rachel, do you have a lineage or another country that you'd like to shout out to while we're here at this point? I know who we want to shout out to. We want to shout out to the animal kingdom. That's who we want to shout out to.
That gave me a chill. Yes.
Ooh, that gave me a chill too. All right. We will be right back with Rachel Augusta.
The Wickedly Smart Women podcast is brought to you by the Creative Age Consulting Group. Women, are you ready for a big revenue breakthrough so you can stop working like a man and being paid like a woman? Are you ready to take the leap and go deep to claim your value and convert your wisdom to wealth? Is now the time to fulfill your mission and change the world? Creative Age Consulting Group is hired by women just like you who want to break through to their brilliance and be heard by millions while building a sustainable business model that makes bank. Please visit apply.wealthylifemethod.com to apply for an invitation-only consultation. If you have been inspired to receive support in welcoming wealth by making your most heartfelt contribution to the world, be sure to apply for a consultation today. Once again, that is apply.wealthylifemethod.com or click in the link in the show notes to access the application.
And we are back with Rachel Augusta. You can find out more about Rachel at rachelaugusta.com. There on her site, you will find a free audio healing meditation that you can play for your animals, which is also likely going to be powerfully healing for you. And I know for me, my cat is literally my familiar. He is literally a medicine cat and has been my partner in so much medicine that has happened with my clients over the years and with myself personally. So I know how intertwined an animal is with its owner. And so definitely check out that audio healing meditation. And Rachel also has a membership site. We'll be putting more information about that in our show notes. But right now, Rachel, I'd love to ask you about how you are specifically serving your clients and their animals and what people could expect if they maybe were in a situation like I am, if they were coming to work with you. If I was going to come work with you, what would we be doing together?
Yeah. So I work with clients actually all over the world, even Lithuania. I've brought in translators to help my Lithuanian sisters with their animals. And what we do is we have an initial consultation. I want to know the full history. Like, when did this happen? Like you with, your big guy, Jack, who's now your little guy, Jack. Like, when did it start? What did the vet say? What's the diagnosis? Because some of this just takes detective work, right? And so we really get to the bottom of I want to hear the full story. And then I also want to know what's been happening in your life, because we know that animals are deeply connected to us. And there's actually a lot of science out there to prove that animals can smell our emotions. And we know that, but then they start feeling them with us. So if we have really been hating our lives, maybe been living in a state of stress for a couple of years or a state of depression, it's very common that your animal would get sick. So for me to do my job, I actually need to know what's going on with you. So a lot of it comes into involves coaching the women. Like, have you been going through a divorce? Do you have a business that's making you hate your life?
Making you only $24 for a whole year.
Right. Are you me? And can I coach you through what I went through? And so we really get to the bottom of that. And then we need to find out what's in the house. Man-made fragrance is extremely toxic. It's a hormone disruptor. And so the physiological relaxation response that I talked everybody through, where your muscles relax and your blood becomes oxygenated, one of the bars in that is your hormones regulate. Well, we need to figure out if there's hormone disruptors in the home, because then there will never be new cell growth. So then we go through a list of what could be in your home that could be preventing new cell growth. Because if you have an animal with cancer, or really any other disease, we need new cell growth. I actually want to restate that. All people need new cell growth at all stages of your life. That's how we prevent disease. So it doesn't matter if you're a baby, a kitten, a puppy, a woman in your 20s, or somebody in your 80s, you want new cell growth. So getting that out of the house is really, really important. And what people don't understand always is that humans have 10 million neuron receptors in their brain associated with smell. A cat has 80 million and a dog has 400 million. So, scented, those pumpkin spice scented candles and things like that, you really are just burning basically things that cause cancer in the home. So we need to figure that out. And then we start the private sessions. And the private sessions are about an hour long a piece. And what I do is I go in and my favorite analogy at this point in my business is thinking of the body almost like a car. And a lot of times when people come to me, they've got, cat or dog or horse where it's like they've been driving the car with no gas or oil. And now it's blowing up and it's smoking and they can't get it to run. And what we need to do is go in and rebuild everything. Get the brain and the body to start working together. We trick it out, put some solar panels on it, get it going again. Then that's really where I come in the private session. I want to rebuild the engine. I need to rebuild the foundation to the house. But I just need to make sure that there's nothing in their real environment that's going to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, from taking hold. It's like, it doesn't make sense for you to come in and do the work if there's stuff in the environment that's going to
exactly, because then it's like
the work.
Steps, right. It's like 2 steps forward, a step back. I want it to be 5 steps forward and then another 5 steps forward.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. So I'd love to have you share with us a success story. Like, can you share, other than Holly, which obviously is a huge success story because you had Holly for another 3 years.
Yeah.
What else have you done? Like you've mentioned horses, dogs, cats, canaries. I don't know. I don't know if you've done any bird work, but
yes. I've worked with birds. I've worked with elephants. I've worked with big cats. I've worked with a lot of animals, pigs, cows, everybody. I have so many stories, but one that always comes to mind because it's so shocking and it shows the power of what the body can do if we get out of the way. A woman called me. Her dog had a fatty tumor, a soft fatty tumor that went hard. And while she was at work, the dog decided that she was going to perform surgery on herself. Ooh. And so she tried to eat it out of herself, and it was in her abdomen. So this woman came home to find her huge, beautiful golden retriever laying on the floor in a pool of blood. And she rushed her to the emergency vet. And the emergency vet said, honestly, I can't operate because it was in her abdomen. And if I do anything, it's going to kill her. The nicest thing we could do for the senior, she was 13 years old, which is actually, an old for a golden retriever, is put her to sleep and euthanize her. And there was so much shock and horror in this woman. She could what? I can't. I need to think, I know this is horrific, but I just got home from work and I'm not there yet. So the vet sent her home with morphine and said, okay, well, she is going to die on her own at home. And I'm going to send you with morphine so she's not in pain when it happens. So the woman went home with her dog. She called me immediately and was like, is there anything we can do? And I was under no illusion that I was going to come in like some mystical witch and, solve this dog's problem.
The fairy animal mother.
Right. Because I would be making a lot more money. No, I would be on Oprah. So I was like,
you might be, girl.
Might be. So at that point, this was actually pretty early on in my career. I said, I know that I can offer pain relief regardless. So let's just focus on that. And then you have time to think about it. This dog, I have pictures. This woman took pictures throughout the week. The healing in this dog's abdomen is like nothing I've ever seen in my life. The dog's abdomen was completely healed within a couple of days. Just some slight, it went from really terrible bruising to almost no bruises at all within a week. And she ended up living an additional 2 years. Not just surviving, thriving. This dog lived as a ball thief for 2 years. and it was one of the most beautiful moments because what it did for this woman is she didn't have to, in a moment of trauma, make a decision that would have further accelerated her trauma around what had happened.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that story. You also have a membership site, which we talked about briefly after the break. What's happening in the membership site? We've only got about a minute to talk about that. But
so when people work
in the membership site,
the membership site is all about proactive self-care. It's like getting your oil changes on time so that you prevent the blow-ups, right? We don't want your car breaking down. We don't want the bridge collapsing. Once that's happened, it's really hard to go back and rebuild. So the membership site is about keeping everybody in the family healthy. And my hashtag is families that feel together, heal together.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, Rachel, I am so grateful that you came today. And when I saw that you were going to be on my queue for the interview today, I said, well, of course, fortuitous divine timing, right? Just like you had that course came to you. When we do our prayer work and when we ask for help and when we surrender thinking that it's our responsibility to find all the answers and instead ask for the divine intervention, then it happens. And so I'm so grateful that you came today, Rachel. I want to encourage everyone to go to rachelaugusta.com, check out that free audio healing. I'm downloading it myself, definitely, as soon as we get done here. And going to spend some time with Jackie Cat Jackson, the big jaguar, who has now become a shrunken up jaguar. We'll see if we can go to the Jaguar Lagoon and get him to be reborn and rebirthed because, rumor has it cats have 9 lives. So
yes.
Thank you so much for coming, Rachel. I really appreciate you being on the show. And listeners, we do love feedback. Please let us know what you thought of today's show by calling into our listener line at 540-402-0043, extension 4343. Or send in questions or guest suggestions to listeners@wickedlysmartwomen.com. We might even give you a shout out on the show. I also want to let you know that I've created a brand new quiz for those of you who are interested in finding out about your wealth readiness. It's called the Wealth Readiness Quiz, and you can find that at quiz.wealthylifementor.com. So go ahead and take that quiz if you would like to get scored and find out what your level of wealth readiness is. I want to thank you again for tuning in. Keep your ears open and remember, you are a wonderful woman.
Thanks for tuning in, downloading, and listening. Be sure to review and rate Wickedly Smart Women on Apple Podcasts and share with other women who can benefit from today's episode. Wickedly Smart Women is the premier podcast series for informing, activating, and inspiring the leader who carries profound wisdom and knows that now is the time to welcome wealth. We welcome your feedback and guest suggestions and invite you to subscribe to our mailing list to be notified of each episode at wickedlysmartwomen.com.